All right, let's talk about bug heads. And you know why I call them that when they're sitting on the mast. There's his two antennas. There's his little praying mantis or grasshopper type nose. But upper tension control. Now here's what we're looking for. These came in because they weren't behaving right, and I have two of the same model. And on one, listen.
Can you flip that with a tool so we can see what you're flipping? Because we hear the noise. Got it. There we go.
See, you've got a fixed slide here up against the bug head base, and then you have this spring-loaded one. Now that's one, and you hear that, and you see it's pretty responsive. This is 7.
Harder.
Much louder, much harder. Now, typically, if they start...
And Jack is referring to the numbers that are around the dial.
There's your indicator slot, and if you'll see, this one is on 1, goes to 2. Here's the indicator slot as you see it from the operating position.
We can't see when you hold it up like that.
But if it were laying down in the operating position and you looked up, this is what you would see. This little cutout, and the number that corresponds to the cutout is what it's set on. So now we're going to show you what happens when you pull one of these screws out, which is what we have to do to see what's going on. Here we have one side of the drum. My antennas got caught. And you can see, when you pull the screw out of here, you see this spring-eared plate and a circlip right there. This is your drum that goes down over the shaft. Now notice the end of the shaft, if you can see it in the camera, is flat on two sides. This is a completely round-centered dial. But notice this inside here. Can the camera see that there's a
Tip
cam?
it this way a hair.
How about that?
Yes.
See, the hemostats are riding a little cam. It gets taller as it goes to this stop post. On the other side of the stop post, it's down at the bottom, and it gets higher as we get to the next stop post. An assembly problem would be if you got these two ears right here on the wrong side of those stop posts. Because what it's supposed to be is that on 7, the stop post, Now we get down to 1, and you see how loose that is?
By comparison.
Yeah, and I see that's actually too loose. Look, it's hanging.
It's not going to hold a normal size piece of yarn.
And even on 7... that's pretty loose.
It's floppy.
Right.
So we will get problems, knitters, such as loops forming at the end of rows because the take-up won't have prevented too much yarn from coming out. We can't see it come forward. There we go.
All right, now, look at the distance between the circlip here and the spring post washer. See there, that distance means that we have that far to travel before we get any spring pressure at all. And that will never do. And what it means is this spring right here, that I'm going to dump out for you, this little guy has gotten weak. And there's not a whole lot you can do other than put a new spring in, but here's the MacGyver fix. We're going to put the base on.
Your hand's in the way completely.
Okay, now we put the base back on. And here's a series of washers. This is a 1/4 inch flat washer. It's named by the size of the inside circle. This is a 1/4, and you notice it fits on the shaft just fine. This is a 5/16 washer. It's going to be a little bit thicker, but look, as long as it fits down inside the cup correctly.
Which it does.
Got a little wiggle room. That's just fine. We can use that.
So you're going to use it to space it so the spring's more compressed?
Yes, we're going to add distance at the bottom of the spring. Now what you need to make sure reassembling is
we can't see it all.
That your sight gap right here is on the right side. If you'll look, I can put it on here
backwards.
Let's don't do that.
I think I've done that.
Yeah, well, reassembly.
Years ago when I took one apart to get crud out of it and I wasn't as clear on these matters as I am now.
And if you'll notice, this one's fixed. But what I had to do was exactly what I'm doing here. Take it open and get my hemostats and get the fuzz out from between.
Can you rotate your hand, because your hand's between us and the imaginary fuzz?
The fuzz was inside of this base plate.
And it really builds up.
It does. And you see this tang is bent over so the little base plate cannot get off. But with this disassembled, you can get behind it, you can take the crud out, and you can put it back in. Now here's what we're going to do, and I'll show you the two sides. We're going to put this on, and we're going to make sure that our alignment slot is in the right direction, like so. We're going to put our washer in. Now I've tested ahead of time. Let me show you this. This is a 5/16 washer.
We couldn't really see it.
This is a 5/16 washer, just like this is, but notice it's got a different circumference.
Yeah.
On the outside, this is a specialty low-profile 5/16, but look, it is a lot thicker.
It is thick.
Okay, so now we have a variation. We have this thickness, and this regular 1/4 inch, and I've already tested. If I put that 1/4 inch washer in there, and I drop my spring down, now I'm going to put the eared compression plate on there. I'm going to get my fingers out of the way in a minute.
Okay, and then I'll zoom in so they can see it going on.
All right, now look at the distance here that we have between the groove and the spring. If I pull it, now we have our washer underneath the spring. Look at the distance here between the groove for our circlip and our little spring plate. If I pull the spring plate down, look how far up it comes. This is getting close to exactly what we want.
Oh, I see. The upward position is where it will be holding the yarn snugly once you finish assembly.
That's right. Our one position is this cam at its lowest possible setting, which is right here. And it's just, I mean, the tip will see there's a little bit of distance between it and this surface here, which is the inner circumference of the dial. And that is where the circlip is going to sit. When it's in place, it's going to sit right here on this surface. I'm going to
move over a little. We can't.
Okay. Oops, I dropped it through is what I was trying not to do. Let me get it positioned and then I'll show you. All right, there you go. You can see the circlip.
Not really.
Okay.
Because your knuckles are in the way. You're in the middle of the frame, but
okay,
now we can see the circlip.
All right. When the circlip is on the post here, that's where it's going to be, is on this surface of your dial. So the dial actually sits on the circlip when it's in place. And so the distance between this pressure plate, which the dial adjusts, and the seat for the circlip is what we want to close up. So we're going to take this spring back off, add another little 1/4 inch washer. We're going to put the spring back in place. Voila! Now, this little pressure plate with the ears on it that we're going to adjust up and down with the dial is now, when I put it into place, going to...
It won't go.
It will. It's just that it has to be aligned just right, and I'm not looking at it. There you go. I'm doing it by feel so that, there it is. Now look. I'm going to have to pull it down just a hair to get the circlip on. This is ideal spring pressure.
That's great, yeah.
This is minimum spring
pressure. Now what
pressure.
about the fact that you said it's gotten weak? So time will go on, it'll get weaker, and eventually this won't do it, right?
Eventually you'll have to go to a place like Fastenal, or we have Georgia Spring that makes these springs. And what you will do is you'll take the old spring in, and you'll say, this is the...
We can't see it, lower it.
This is the height of the spring now, measured from this surface to this surface. And you will tell the nice people, this is what I had to add, this thickness, to make the spring back to where it should be. So they'll sell you a spring with this diameter, with about this number of coils, but that it's undisturbed height is the height of your old spring plus the
your
two washers
spacers
that you put in.
Based on what little I know of spring steel, I would expect that these didn't wear out with any speed and that the washer fix will work for some years.
For a while. This is not a new machine by any means whatsoever. And the thing is, the tension against the spring is only the thickness of the yarn going through it.
Right.
So once we're all cleaned up and we're back to
and I'd like to point something out. Not always do you need a new spring. Sometimes all you do need to do is clean the fuzz out and lubricate the inside.
That is right. And that is what I started out doing with this one. But I did check it ahead of time, just like this one, to see what kind of snap do you get when you separate those.
I have one, and it is quite an old machine. Knitters will recognize the Studio 328, probably the early 70s, I think. And its mast on one side, I'm almost certain, has this problem, and we need to do it.
Right. Now, here's our assembly order, our dial. Now, you want to start with...
Drop it down a little.
Yeah, you want to start with the 7 or the 1, either one, in the indicator slot on the front. So here we go. We're going to put the dial on, and we're going to start on 1 so we're not putting much... Oops, you know what we need to do first? Put our circlip back on. After we put the pressure plate adjuster on, then we're going to put our dial in. And I just want to show you what the pieces look like. We're going to put our dial in. Here's the center post. And this is what you see when you take it off right here. You see this circular surface. We've got a little lock washer that goes in there. We've got a screw that goes in there. And that screw is going to screw down into the threaded boss on this post. Here's the assembled one, but we have to take it apart to do our spring back. All right, I'm trying to show you 2 little ears, and they're little triangular protuberances from either side of this dial. Nothing, nothing, nothing. Here's the other ear. Those 2 ears are going to ride these little ratchets right inside of here. That's what you hear when you do this. So that's part of the spring tension, is it has to push hard enough up so that when you screw this on, now you'll notice this side that you don't see when you look at it assembled has 2 flat sides that are going to match the 2 flat sides of the post. And you saw the trouble I had getting the now you heard it pop into place, but you're going to have to do that with this dial in place. And the way I do it is, we'll fix our spring later. I put my dial on, I get it where I want it, I take my hemostats, and I hook them on this so that I can line it up by pushing down and rotating. Look how easy that was. Now I'm ready to put my screw back in, and our dial is
Except,
clicking.
aren't you missing a piece? You said this is just to show you, but...
Well, no, this one is the spring that needs to be repaired. This is the side that we took completely apart. And this side, we haven't put the washers under the spring yet. That's what I'm saying is, but this is what we want so that we hear that noise. Then we'll put our lock washer in to the center, and then we're going to put our screw in, and you basically pull this down till it closes the lock washer. It simply holds that centerpiece in place, aligned on the shaft, so that you get the clicking when you adjust it. And there you'll have a repaired bug head with the tension restored.
Can I review as a knitter, not a mechanic?
Sure.
To get into it, we first take out that screw.
Yes, and we're going to do that. There we go. We took this screw out. Now, here's what's going to happen.
This is 2 pieces, right?
Right. What you're going to do is reach in there and get your lock washer out so that it's not floating around. And again,
put it somewhere safe.
Use hemostats to reach in and pull that up. You've got a distance that your hemostats can go inside of there, where you can get a good grip and pull straight out.
So you pull the plug on it.
Pull the plug. Then you
lift off, and that's the dial that we're accustomed to seeing.
This is your dial. Then again, here's what we're looking at. So we're going to go over that criteria one more time. There's too much.
Wait. I didn't know that's what you were trying to show us. There we go. Now we can see.
There's too much distance between the underside of your circlip and the top of your pressure disc
and if
that guides the can.
If that's the case, you can see right away.
Right.
It should be close.
Yeah. And you can see on this one, if I turn it upside down, there's no thread tension there whatsoever.
Not until we get to finger-sized yarn.
Yeah, that's the bulky stuff you knit on the big boards. But that's what we're going to look at. Now, see, you got a little snap when you do that.
Which tells me I would think the spring's not dead, but it's suffered some compression.
That's it. It's just like the interstices in your vertebra in your back. When you get
how many S's in that?
Oh, at least 12.
Interstices.
Yeah, I'm a snake. When you get old, they compress. When the springs get old, they compress.
Yeah.
The distance between the coils becomes less. But we figured out our MacGyver fix is 2 1/4-inch flat washers put in after we put the disc back on with the notch aligned correctly.
Wait a second. We didn't actually get all the way down to the disc. I'm trying to make it so someone who hasn't done it before won't get confused.
All right, on this side, we have pulled the...
Can't see.
We have pulled the circlip off. Then, all right, we pulled our dial off. We removed the circlip. I'm going to get my finger out of the way here in a second. We're going to remove the circlip that is right here at the top of the shaft in its groove. We're going to take our little tension plate off. Then we're going to remove the spring.
And you dumped it out, basically.
Yeah. Once you get the circlip off and this little tension plate off, the spring will fall off. Then we're going to remove this cup, which is where everybody lives. So reassembly, we put our cup back on. We've determined we need...
put our spacers in.
We need 2 1/4-inch washer spacers. We put our spring back on. Now, when we put our pressure plate on...
Spring, then pressure plate, then circlip, right?
Now, when we put our circlip on, into the groove, like...
You're able to do that with your fingers. Usually, don't they take a tool?
They do, but this is a really big circlip.
Okay.
On a big shaft.
But some people may feel more comfortable using...
Yeah, you may want to... I will do
tiny pliers or something.
Tiny pliers. Hemostats work really well. And you saw what happened. It didn't lock into place. And these little guys will take off across the room. And
I've been there when they did.
Since they're almost always black, it's best to keep a finger on them all the time. Let me get my...
I see. That's why if you can manage it with fingertip pressure, you prefer to.
Right. And see, what I usually do is come over the top where the serrations on the circlip. Now, on this one, what you got to do is grip it. And then you got to get this...
I think you meant to say those are surgical clamps.
Right.
And that's a serrated pair.
Yeah, they have serrated tips on them. But you'll notice I have to get my head in the way to get it aligned. You have to pull your little pressure disc out of the way so you get a clean shot at getting that on.
There it goes.
And there you heard it click. Now, look at that. It is right up against the circlip, right where we need to be.
So now we put the dial portion back on?
Right. Now, to make sure that your circlip is seated, make sure that you can circle it. Take a little screwdriver, and that it'll spin around in its slot.
Well, we can't really see anything but your knuckles.
Okay. Let's try this. There it is, spinning around.
Yes,
in
we
its
can
slot.
see.
If it'll spin around, then it is properly seated in there, and you don't have to worry about the spring factor later. All right, like I said, you've got your indicator slot right here.
That's what points out what tension number we're actually on.
That's our number window. So when we put the dial on, we either want it on 7 or we want it on 1. And notice what we've got here. There's a left and a right to these dials.
They're mirror images.
So I could put this dial on, but the numbers would be upside down. That's what you're looking for.
And we've seen that happen.
Yeah, we have.
I think 1 or 2 have even come from the factory that way.
Yeah, well, it's easy to do. Now, we're in place. We've got a 1 showing in our window right there. So we're going to turn it up and hope the camera can follow us.
I'm trying.
Okay.
You're a hard act to follow.
Literally with the camera. Now, again, we're going to turn our little center piece right side up.
We couldn't see the piece.
Okay, there it is right there. This is upside down, and you can tell because there's 2 flat sides to the inside of the piece. So we're going to turn it right side up so it's completely circular. Pick it up with our hemostat, and now we're going to have to rotate it until it pops down onto the shaft. I'm better at this when I'm not trying to stay
I know it.
in the camera.
It's always tough. But you did a good job of showing that once before.
Okay.
So perhaps people will go back and kindly review that.
There you go. We're in position. We put our little lock washer right in that center hole. We put our screw right in on top of it. Screw stick.
And now we're back to normal skills that most of us have.
Right. And we're going to tighten this up until it closes the lock washer, and it'll stop. Now let's see how well we did. We're on 4. That's about right. And now when we go to 1,
should be looser.
We still got tension, but you notice it's not sagging down.
Right, much different.
Now if we go
So it stands to reason, knitters, once you've done this, all of your recent experience, you have to readjust your thinking because your recent experience won't predict your future experience.
That's right. You've changed the tension value for each number, but it's back to closer to what it originally was. So if you've got a really thick yarn, the 1 still holds some drag against the yarn.
And in general, the thinner the yarn, the higher the number you need to make the sliding through space small enough that it's hugged.
Yes, and this would be the disaster if you got this on backwards. It would be the exact opposite. If I had this dial on this side, 7 would be the weakest setting and 1 would be the strongest setting because you'd have the cams in backwards. So it's easy enough, though, because if you hold the bug head up where you would be reading it, you know those numbers.
It's very obvious where they should go.
Right side up in your little indicator window. So now we've just rebuilt our bug head, and we're ready to go. You said the spring would fall out, but look, this one fell out with a friend. It's got most of a little felted fuzz mat. And again, this kind of thing will change the tension. We just showed you
enormously. It'll also make the dial unresponsive, so you're turning, but nothing's changing.
That's right. In the lower numbers, you would not see an appreciable difference. And what have we done? We got a dust rhino that's taking the place of what we're going to do, add a couple of washers to increase the tension.
But if you have trouble getting your tension adjusted, it can be as simple as getting that out.
Exactly.